Welcome back to the Wednesday after Easter. And today, as we began with yesterday, many of us are asking what's next. And this week, as we unpack the answer to that question, I just want to say welcome back. It's great to be with you this morning. What's next? It was a question that many of the disciples themselves asked after Easter. And yesterday, the good news for us was that what's next is a person, not necessarily a program or a process or anything other than you and I being pursued by God and responding to God. The good news of yesterday was just being reminded that God wants this more than you do. God is the one who gifted us with the Lent that you had or the year that you've had. And God wants to be as actively engaged in your life after Easter as he was before. Yesterday we said what's next is a person. And I often hear people ask that question, what's next, at different times and seasons of their life, but no more than during a retreat. Do lots of spiritual direction at this stage in my life, much more for priests than anyone else, but I do have the privilege often of directing both priests and laity on a retreat, whether it's a weekend at Lumen Christi or whether it's up in Omaha with the Institute for Priestly Formation or in Chicago with the Institute for Priestly Formation. There have been times in my life where I've been able to walk with people during retreat where they have carved out time to spend with God and to hear his voice and to experience his love. And as the retreat comes to its conclusion, often I hear people ask, what's next? They long to continue to hear God's voice as they did on retreat, or they long to experience his presence as they did on retreat. And it's natural that people would ask, what's next? Father Scott Trainer, who's a good friend and an awesome priest, once said, and I steal his words a lot of times as I speak to my own retreatants, that three things happen on a retreat, right? God has a great desire to be with us. Number two, we have a great desire to be with God. And number three, the retreat provides a favorable environment for those things to happen. Let me say that again. Three things happen on a retreat. God has a desire for us. We have a desire for God. And the retreat just creates a favorable environment for those two things to come together. When you go on a retreat, whether it's at Lumen Christi or for many people in our own diocese, a weekend at Manresa or any place that you would go to, the retreat is just a favorable environment for God's desire to match our desire, and great things can happen there. So what's next for many of us is to be reminded that God has a great desire for us, and you wouldn't be listening to this unless you had a great desire for God. So what's next is for us to make sure that we are intentional about creating a favorable environment in our life where God can lead us. We're not trying to create a favorable environment to get God to lead us or to get God to pay attention to us or to get God to want to speak to us or to love us. Those things are already there. The favorable environment is simply putting ourselves in a position so that we can receive that. So whether that's silence or whether that's time or whether that's just intentional openness to what God wants, it's the favorable environment that is what's next. So tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday, we'll talk about three of the most important things that are part of having a favorable environment in our spiritual life where we can continue to hear God, have him lead us, and to experience his love. What's next for all of us is God's insatiable desire for us, your desire for God, and creating a favorable environment in your life where those two things can come together. Enjoy the day. I pray that this day is filled with grace, and let's begin to peer into what that favorable environment looks like. And until our conversation unfolds tomorrow morning, God bless you.